Today we have Chrystal on Expedition Charterboat Bear Paw, currently chartering Alaska and the San Juan Islands. We discuss nature with bears, whales, and fishing, and the history of the Thomas Crosby. This is Stephanie Lowry, and you're listening to the Songs in the Sails podcast. Been busy with charters yet? Like, when does your season usually start?
So the Alaska season for us this year starts, we decided to head up there later, not earlier, because we are for our first time doing charters in the San Juan Islands. So we have a little bit of demand here. So we're going to call that the shoulder seasons.
Okay.
So San Juan Islands, which is just an area north of Seattle, one of the best cruising waters in the world. That's where we call our home base in the winter. So call us snowbirds. We snowbird in the Washington state. But this year we're going to head north in June and continue our Alaska charters for July and August, which is really a super short season, really. Mainly because the demand right now has kind of shifted us to the San Juan Islands. So we'll just stay here till the very last second, then we got to go, and then we'll go. So, yeah. And are we busy? Not really. This is our second season doing Alaska and really our first season doing San Juan. So we're testing the waters in both directions.
Right, because you used to charter in the Caribbean.
We did 4 seasons back in the day. And that reminds me, did we ever meet? Because I can't remember.
Not in person. No, just virtually. Now, Carrie, I think you have probably seen her many times, Carrie Huckle, and she was who I was working with at H2O. She was a captain for many, many years on Promenade, and her and Baza.
I know her son. Son better. Yeah.
Do you know, Chad or Kevin?
Chad Blake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That kind of comes full circle now.
Yeah. Well, very cool. All right, so let's get started. So you guys are currently chartering in the San Juan Islands and Alaska. What is your boat? Tell us about the boat.
What we have is this amazing custom-built steel hulled with an aluminum superstructure vessel that is considered a 90-footer. When you actually put the tape measure to her, though, she's more like 100. So we have a huge swim step on the back. On U.S. documentation says that she's 148 ton, but really when you measure her in the sling, she's 265. She's a big, fat bottom girl, we call her. And the interior is incredible. The interior is almost as new because it was all refitted in 2010. The actual superstructure was completely replaced with aluminum compared to its old model. And it has a really amazing history. Excuse me, but no, the interior is really where it's at. It's probably the most perfect charter boat layout one could ever ask for. We have 5 staterooms total, 4 of which are king sized, and then the crew quarter makes the 5th. So the 3 king size staterooms that we have left for guests are all very VIP and all quite equal. That's quite unusual for a boat.
Yeah. Now there's 3 crew.
We only, 3 crew total. So my husband and I take the crew quarters behind the wheelhouse so that we were next to all the alarms, and the crew quarters is in the lower deck aft. Gotcha.
Very good. All right. Well, how did you guys get started in this industry? What did you do?
Oh boy. My husband has done chartering in previous years up in Roach Harbor, believe it or not, before he met me. When we got married in 2014, prior to that, he had an old classic 1925 36-foot wooden classic Blanchard, which was a real icon of the Pacific Northwest, called Cutterhead. So he did dinner cruises out of Roach Harbor, and a very popular destination up here. And beyond that, when we got married, we have a boat, we have a sailboat, and we still do today. We have a 57-foot sailing ketch. We decided to head down to the Caribbean to kind of get me introduced into the charter world and get some warm weather. So we flew off to St. Thomas and had a wonderful 4 seasons down there until the double back Cat 5 hurricanes Irma and Maria. We did have a catamaran that we were running at the time, and we actually ended up leasing it for that final year. because it made it. It survived the hurricane. It was one of the few boats that did. So we put it back together again and ran it that last season. But it was more of a devastation tour for us, and it just wasn't quite right, because everything was just blown off. So I know that the recovery continues today. So what we did is we finished that season, came back north to our sailboat that was patiently waiting for us, and Alaska was calling. We always had the theory of going south until the butter melts and then hanging a left or right, but we both agreed that if we didn't go north first, that may never happen going north. So we did go to Alaska in 2019.
Very nice. I watch your pictures and your videos all the time since we became friends on Facebook many years ago. And I'm like, I love them. Sometimes I'll be laying in bed and I'm like, Levi, which is my husband. I'm like, look at this. Look at this. This is amazing. The bears and the whales and just, it's amazing. Absolutely.
I forget that we take it for granted what type of life we have. And I might post a video here and there of a bear or a whale, and we really have had incredible access to Mother Nature like that in a very organic way that's not staged. I mean, nothing is a zoo where we live or nothing that where we go, but like we took a job when COVID hit at a fish hatchery, something that we would never normally have done, but because it was remote, because we could take our boat there and we can both work, it was the best decision we ever made. And if you can imagine when you're at a fish hatchery, what does it attract? Every predator you can think of. So bears was, for lack of better terms, I became a real life Goldilocks. You couldn't walk out off the porch and get to point A to point B without being completely aware of bears, because they were everywhere. So very, very thick.
They are so close, but they didn't seem like, I mean, they seemed like they saw you, but they didn't.
There's a tolerance. There's definitely a tolerance. Do you trust them? No.
No, right.
You need to keep your distance, but really what they were really after was fish. All they care about is fish. And you will get a bear with a fish in its mouth and just hightail it through the yard, and you might be in their path. You could very well be in their path, but they don't care about you. They want that fish. So there's lots of stories that a lot of the the crew at that site will talk about. They're just standing there doing whatever it is they're doing, and then a bear roars by with a bear chasing right behind it. It's not uncommon at all. And then, of course, the whales are definitely thick when we do what's called release, when we're releasing the little baby fish that have grown to such a size that's adequate for them with their best survival rate to be released into the wild. And then the whales come out, and the sea lions and the eagles and the birds. And no, it's pretty amazing having a couple years there at the hatchery and in the most remote area in Southeast Alaska one could ask for. And now that we're cruising it professionally with the charter boat, I just feel like we're one up compared to everybody else, because we know all the spots. We know all the spots. We know all the good fishing holes. We know all the good crabbing holes. And you do hunt, you do fish. You are that remote. It's a lifestyle change, and it's really amazing.
When do you think is the best time to charter in Alaska? Like
my opinion is August and September, mainly because if you're a photographer in any way and you do want to really capture the bears, now they're fat and fluffy and they're happy, they're less grumpy, they're more tolerant, they've been eating, and that's the best photo of a bear, in my opinion. Later, the better. So far as whales are concerned, the best time to go to Alaska would be March and April, because that's the herring run. That's a huge feeding frenzy. We have blue whales that head north. We have mainly humpbacks. It's just this huge feeding frenzy. That does continue throughout the summer. It's just not quite in the same way as it does in the spring. But we do get a lot of bubble feeding, a lot of humpbacks. And for whatever reason, the humpbacks love bear paw. They come to us. We don't come to them. It's really, really amazing. And that's some of the footage that I'm sure you've seen. So,
Yes. Well, that's really cool. All right. So what does your day look like on charter?
On charter, they're long.
Yeah.
They're long days. Depending on the route that we go, quite often people want to do a one-way trip between Sitka and Juneau, or maybe Petersburg back to Sitka. that does require at least a 7-night, 8-day commitment if people want to see the glaciers. So what we use is Tracy Arm Glacier as our destination, but the sad side of that is that it adds a lot of mileage. So it means that we have to push hard every day to make an average mileage. If glaciers is top on the list. So if glaciers is not the biggie hit, but we want to do more Mother Nature fishing, bears and whales, then we can actually shorten that trip by about 5 days.
Oh, wow.
And we can hit all those boxes in a shorter week if people don't have quite the time. It's the glaciers that add the miles. So
Yeah.
we warn people, if we got to do the glaciers, you got to stay a little longer and be prepared to bang out some miles on a couple of the days. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What, after you've chartered these different destinations, what's your favorite chartering destination? Your
I would
personal.
have to, my personal, it would be near and around that hatchery that I speak of, because one,
Yeah.
that was home for us. And B, it just has every box to check. Other than a glacier, it has every box to check. It's just
Right.
full on Mother Nature in that area in particular. It's
Yeah.
rich. Yeah.
That sounds fun. All right. What is your favorite meal to make?
There's two. My favorite would be the all-you-can-eat Dungeness crab feast, because we
Ah,
generally pig it with our pots. We go fishing for it. We'll pick the pots maybe that morning, maybe over the course of 2 or 3 days. We'll get lots and lots of crab. I like it because it's one of the simplest for me as a
right.
chef to produce it, because you
Yeah.
just,
Put it
steam
in
it
the
all
pot.
up, put it all
Yeah.
out there, and people are just wow, never had so much crab in their life, and they just get down and dirty and get butter
Yeah.
all over the place. Otherwise, I think one of my best dishes, Alaskan proud, is black cod.
Hmm.
That's a fish that I think a lot of people have not experienced in the world,
Yeah.
and it's unique, it's fatty, it's rich, and I think it's one of the best fish that there is.
How would you cook it? Like alone with some sides, or do you make
The
more of a
trick to black
casserole?
cod is marinating it.
Ah,
I like to
okay.
do a 3-day marinade, generally with an Asian flair of some sort, whether it's teriyaki or a miso.
Mm-hmm.
The trick to black cod is marination
Hmm.
and then doing a pan fry.
Very good. Sounds
Yeah,
really yummy.
it's really, really good. It's one of my favorites.
Now, do you guys scuba dive, or are you able to snorkel with the whales or anything like, or the sea life or anything like that?
So getting in the water up
It's
there,
really
to
cold.
remind you, is pretty cold. And
Yeah.
because we don't offer any scuba diving, we don't really have the wetsuits or the dry suits on board to
Right.
accommodate that. So
Yeah.
no, and even if you did get into the water, I think the clarity would be an issue anyways, especially for being whale watching. I don't think that would work. I don't think you would get close enough anyways to them regardless. So no, it's not
Yeah.
the downside to Alaska. Here's the one downside, is that it's really not a water sport. Get in the water and
Right.
do that. Unlike the Caribbean. So for kids, it's tougher with kids. We're down
Yeah.
the Caribbean. It's perfect for families and kids because
Right.
off they go into the water all day and it's easy, but not so much in Alaska.
Right. Right. What kind of, I'm going to ask a couple of different questions that aren't on my list. What kinds of like beverages, like I would think you would do more hot beverages, or like at cocktail hour, like do you do hot toddies, or like what do you do for people?
So we actually have a full-blown liquor license for the boat, but that's not something I generally make comment on the chartering.
Mm.
When we're not chartering, we actually open the boat up for the public, and
Oh,
the sick and residents can come to the boat. We can shuttle them to the boat, or I go on the radio and I say, "Hey, it's BYOB," which means bring your own boat and
yeah.
raft up. So we've had some great times out there with the locals. The locals love it because it gives them a unique destination to go to. But we
Right.
do have a full-on liquor license, so we are a bar/restaurant when not in charter. On
Mm.
charter, we include beer and wine
Okay.
as part of our charter package, and we encourage guests that if they want their own hard liquor or alcohol, they just bring what they need, and
Yeah.
then we do the mix and we'll create it. But we keep it in limited to beer and wine so far as the all-inclusive price. And if
Nice.
they want more, we just deal with it as we go.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite snorkel spot? And obviously not Alaska, but what is your favorite snorkel spot?
I would say off of Norman Island, what
Mm.
was the caves? The
Yeah.
caves. Yeah, the caves in BVI.
Right. It's still beautiful there.
Yeah.
What is your favorite activity on charter?
I would have to say watching people learn how to kill a crab. It's
Yeah.
yeah, watching them learn if they will touch one or do
Yeah.
one, clean it, get it prepared. And I also really love watching people catch fish.
Yeah. What is the fishing like there? Amazing.
It's catching, it's not fishing.
Ah,
It's
nice.
just fish on. No,
Yeah.
it's not difficult to limit out in an hour or two for
Wow.
the daily limits with fish and game. It's catching, not fishing.
Yeah.
It's
What all can
awesome.
you catch?
Anything and everything that comes out of the sea. I mean,
Yeah.
the popular fish that's up there is salmon. You'll get rockfish. There's lingcod. There's halibut. We spotted prawns. There's Dungeness crab. You can get king crab, but we can't keep them. Non-residents can't keep a king crab. But all the species of salmon.
My
Excuse
husband is
me.
basically staring at me like, when are we going? Like, you have talked to his love language in every way.
It's an easy sell. It's a bucket list trip for most people to go to Alaska, especially in this capacity.
Right,
We're
right,
not
right,
doing it the way that cruise ships do it. This is a
right,
very intimate, close down to the water level and hands-on experience that we're
right.
trying to give people. Um, this is a lifestyle that people just are marveled at. But what we don't do is what the cruise ships do, which is take you from port to port to port, throw you into a shopping mall to the next shopping mall.
Right.
That's not what we do. No.
It sounds amazing. What is your favorite charter memory?
Oh, favorite one. God, there's so many. Normally people ask us the other question, which is your worst charter?
Oh, that's coming. Or your
Oh God.
craziest.
Um, Probably my favorite charter ever was when the charter was over and we had three couples. This is down in the Caribbean. And we had three couples sharing the cat, and the charter was over, and one couple kind of got a little bit, how would I put it? Annoyed, like they annoyed the other two couples, but the other two couples just really wanted to stay. They wanted to stay longer, and we had
Yeah.
a charter like maybe 4 days out, and we're like, yeah, you guys can stay. They're like, well, can we hire you for another day or two, but don't tell the other couple.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, oh, okay, so how does that look? Because the charter's ending tomorrow, right? Like, oh, we're all
Yeah.
gonna pack our bags, we're all gonna get off the boat. And that's what we did. So as soon as that first couple left, they caught their taxis, like, all right, everybody back on the boat, let's go. And we did a couple more
Oh
days.
my
And it
goodness.
was all QT, like, and we had a ball with them. We've been friends with them
Yeah.
since. We even traveled with them after that too. But no, fantastic people. But things like that
Yeah.
make friends. I mean, you become a family, whether you like it or
Right.
not. During a trip, you do become a family. And that
Right.
was probably one of my favorite ones, mainly because the twist at the end was so awesome in a
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
That's funny.
It
All right.
was really funny.
What makes you guys unique as crew?
I think because this is our life. This is
Yeah.
we live it, we breathe it. Bear Paw is our home. I think there's a lot of crew out there that look at the boat as a piece of equipment, as to a means to make a living.
Right.
It's more than that to us. This is our life. This is our lifestyle. We're trying to show people and teach people. We're naturalists. We have to, there's a lot of teaching that goes on, right down to baiting a hook, to how we cook something, or if you want to be involved on that, great. I think that's what makes us unique and very experienced. We both bring different skill sets to the table.
Right. What are some things you might do on charter since the water isn't really an option? What are some other options besides just drinking?
Well, you're really talking about Caribbean. I have to tell you, in the Caribbean, that's really the sun and the fun, the bars, the beach bars. There's a lot of drinking that goes on in the Caribbean. Alaska doesn't generally dictate that too much. Yeah, we have beer and wine, but for the most part, our clientele, for what I've witnessed, is a more mature crowd generally.
Yeah.
They do want to have a slower pace. They do want to see Mother Nature and the world go by. And it's more about nature
Yeah.
than it is about the destination of the beach bars. So
Right.
that is a huge difference compared to what we were accustomed to in the Caribbean. I mean, it was night after night after night in the Caribbean. You'd have 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning, like
Right.
just day after day after
Rolling.
day
Yeah.
parties. And for us, it might be 2 o'clock at night, but we don't know it because we're still bright and sunny out and it's
Mm-hmm.
light. People don't know what time it is in the summer because the sun
Right.
really never sets. So
Right.
I think what for us up there, it's more of a Mother Nature tour, more of a fishing, more of a hands-on, more of that once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah.
We're not about the bars, we're not about the destinations. It's
Right.
about the Mother Nature.
So you can do hiking, like,
Sort of.
sort
It
of. Okay.
People think that they can like drop me off on the beach and I'll go hiking.
Yeah.
It's a real reality that we really can't let you just go do that because the chances are a bear will be on your
Mm-hmm.
trail within
Really quick.
minutes. So
Oh, wow.
there's certain places we feel that we can take you. It's not uncommon for us to be armed, whether it's with bear spray or a gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real deal. We are in the thickest population of brown bears in the world on Baranof Island, which is where we generally cater out of.
Right.
So the idea of just going through for a walk or a hike, it's bushwhacking, it's too thick. And beaches, you can walk along a beach or so forth, but you kind of want to make sure that you're prepared to exit when a bear shows up.
Wow. It sounds amazing. I think it sounds amazing. Other people would be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, some guests, they want to have their morning run every day. That's the one thing we cannot really
Mm,
offer. There
right.
really is no morning run.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do kayaking. We do have
Yeah.
paddle boards. Our tender's a really hot 22-foot rib, goes super fast. We explore the shorelines, again, looking for deer or bear. You can
Yeah.
even see a mountain goat sometimes.
Mm,
Sometimes you'll see mountain goats. And then, of course, the whales, it's all there. It's just it's not very shore based. I would like
yeah.
would be how I would put it. And it's just because there's just such a high danger. We
Right.
do, however, a couple spots where we go to where there's natural hot springs.
Mm,
They are amazing. My favorite one
yeah.
is Baranof Warm Springs, and that is an amazing stop and it's a must do when we go on
Yeah.
charter.
How many, you said you have to really push and drop, put a lot of miles in to go to the glaciers. And you said you could drop 5 days off of your charter?
No, I can bring that 8-day trip down to
Oh, down
five
to five.
days
Okay.
if we
So
don't do the glacier. That's
how
about a
many,
450-mile
okay.
trip. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot.
It's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
Yeah.
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 Okay. What is your craziest guest story?
Oh God, we don't have enough time in the day. Not enough time in the day. I don't know. What happens on Bear Paw stays on Bear
Stays on
Paw
Bear
as
Paw.
like as any other boat we've ever been on. No, there has been some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We've been exposed to as you can imagine, the drunkenness and the partiness and famous people that I can't name because we
Right.
do respect the privacy of our guests.
Of course.
We've had everything from medical to domestic violence to
Oh
all
my.
kinds of things that you just have to intervene and be
Right.
professional and either diffuse the problem or add to the fun. We're
Yeah.
generally participators. We don't have a problem with participating in fun stuff, but if things get out of hand, I think that's probably one of the most challenging things is when things get out of hand, is getting everybody regrounded. And
Right.
that's our job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your biggest challenge as a crew, would you say?
Having a crew member that can work independently without feeling that they need a list every day as to what they need to do. I think that's
Mm,
for me one of my largest frustrations is I guess the maturity of a crew member that just kind of wakes up in the morning and just understands what has to happen.
mm-hmm.
And that's the crew member that I would love the most. We're not accustomed to having crew. When we were in the Caribbean, we
Right.
didn't. It was just my husband and I. So with this boat, this is kind of a learning curve for us is learning how to work with a crew member. And I have to say, after the first year, it hasn't been easy. We went through crew, and a lot of them were not honest about what their resume or their skill set was. That was the majority of our issues, is that they weren't honest about what they could or could not do.
Right.
And the other side of it was just the maturity level of just understanding what had to happen without having to be told every step of the way.
Right. Mm. What would you say are the biggest skill sets you need from an additional crew?
Independent workers, mature, socially capable, fun. That's probably the good cut that a person needs to have. And honestly, if they don't know it all, that's fine. I'll take a green person. They just to be willing to learn and be willing to get dirty and be willing to catch a fish and touch it. You can't have the ick moment. We're crew. We have to be able to get in and do what needs to be done.
Yeah. How many charters are you looking to have this year or in every season?
If I had, in my mind, a perfect season that had a good balance of off time and on time, I would like to have 8 to 10 charters in a summer season. Our season's very short, unlike the Caribbean. So really, we're only charter worthy for about 4 months out of the year. Right. That's why the San Juan Islands is kind of extending our season. So if we had 8 to 10, I'd be pretty happy with that, because for the winter months, nothing really happens. Right. So we can walk away from the boat, leave it on the dock, wrap it up for the winter. We can do that, but 8 to 10 charters for us would be perfect.
All right. Well, maybe we can get that. We will work hard too. This has been a lot of fun. We just went right through these. Like our questions, like this has been Levi. Well, Levi might have some more questions. Babe, what do you want me to ask? Oh yeah. You had mentioned that Bear Paw has an amazing history. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I can. Bear Paw was built in 1967, which is shocking because she looks like such a beautiful boat, and she is. She was built by the Canadian government in partnership with the United Church of Canada. And the purpose of the ship, and they named it a God ship, and the previous name is Thomas Crosby 5. 5 is in Roman numeral 5 for the V. If you were to Google it, there's even YouTube video that shows the career that this boat had. What it was a boat that had a captain with a minister, sometimes a nurse, and crew. It serviced the northern British Columbian coast, servicing a lot of the native villages and lighthouses for supply. But the nurse would be on board, of course, to offer inoculations for newborns. Maybe they did wedding ceremonies, spreading the word of the Lord, and you name it, funerals, all that. The boat served for over 40 years. So when we actually head north on this boat and we're going to Alaska, it's a little bit of a rock star feeling, because these native villages, they want to see the old Thomas Crosby. And because she's been refitted in 2010, millions got poured into her, and she does not look the same as she did. I mean, she's like a new boat almost. They all want to see her. So we've had a couple of occasions of going into these native villages, and Bear Paw comes in, and we've had the native chiefs come out, and they bring all their members in, and we give them a tour, and they tell us the stories of what they remember. I mean, this boat brought basketball teams together with neighboring villages so they can play sports. This boat had a huge purpose and a huge role in connecting those communities. It retired, I think, somewhere around 1997.
Wow.
And therefore got sold out of the government. But an incredible history. There's a lot on it.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Right? Do you use any of the history as some of your decor, or you just tell the stories?
Because the boat literally got gutted and it started right on over, there's really very little on board that would be recognizable. After having a lot of these members that used to be on their Thomas Crosby come aboard, like they recognize nothing. I think the wheel in the wheelhouse is the only thing that got salvaged in the refit. So the whole house, the whole superstructure is all new wiring, new everything. Like it is as new as a new boat could be. All that was really kept was the hull. And then the complete redesign of the interior. So hence the staterooms and so forth. It's meant for, it's really best for a charter boat experience.
Would you ever open it up to more than 6 guests, or could
we are legal for 12.
Oh, you are legal for 12. It's
So
just the
it's the
sleeping.
sleeping capacity that has to be kind of. Now we have a little sofa bed that can be brought out. We can put down air mattresses or extra cushions if we want to put children down, for instance. So it's negotiable. We are legal for
Yeah.
12, but the 3 king size kind of spells out 6.
Right, right, right.
And do remember, there's the 2 territories. Don't forget about the San Juan Islands. There is a lot of attention to Alaska. It is that
Yeah.
bucket list for people. Got to go there. That is your glaciers, your whales, your
Right.
bears. It is. Don't forget about the San Juan Islands. It's just a bedroom community north of Seattle. Seattleites come up here for little weekend getaways. This is a hot spot. It's like compare it to the Martha's Vineyard to the East Coast. It's kind of
Okay.
same type of deal.
Yeah.
Fabulous cruising grounds, and we got multiple islands, and
Yeah.
there's multiple. You talk about shore excursions. I mean, we got wineries, we have oyster farms, we have lots of restaurants. I mean, there's a different. It's a different vibe. There's not beach bars, but there's lots of bars. I mean, we can do things like that, but it's just a totally different cut, but not Mother Nature heavy. We do have whales in the Pacific Northwest here. We do have our orcas.
He's showing me pictures. He's like, look, these are the pictures.
Friday Harbor on San Juan Island is really the key centerpiece of the San Juan Islands for the town. That's where we put Bear Paw for the winter, and there's a lot to do. It's a major destination. It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good. Then we can put up, there's 2 different options, Alaska or the San Juan Islands, and 2 different experiences, book 2 trips.
And we do, for the only time we do this by the stateroom is when we go north to do the repositioning to Alaska and come back south, repositioning back to Washington. That's the one trip that we will sell by the stateroom rather than renting the whole boat. That can be stateroom sales only, but that breaks it into about 3 weeks of travel. So we do a 2-week trip, which is 15 days between Ketchikan and Friday Harbor, either north or south. But there's also a trip between Juneau and Petersburg, which does include the glaciers, and that's a 7-day trip. And we can do that too. When we start going southbound, which will be first week of September this year, we will offer those 2 packages by the stateroom.
Do you have all those in CYA?
They're not specific, but they're on my website that states the repositioning. CYA is limited as to how you market what's available or whatnot. It's even hard to market San Juan Islands versus Alaska.
Right.
Like it's hard. Like you kind of have to read it all in order to learn it all. So it's kind of. I almost wonder if we should have 2 separate listings. One Alaskan listing and one San Juan Island listing. It would probably be better if it was done that way, but you have to read it in order to learn it. And unfortunately, the people just graze by and might not catch that.
Right. Well, hopefully we can bring some awareness. I do hope that other brokers or people will feel like they can use this. I'm not trying to be a poacher of clients. I want my goal with all of this is to help boats, to help crew, to help get the word out about, sometimes crew move around to different boats. Like I want it's to help everything. So,
well, the one thing that if I were to make a plea to the brokers, if I could speak to them directly, is like, you may not know Alaska and you don't really realize how big Alaska is. I've had brokers, and I'm not trying to make fun of Florida brokers, but I'll use a Florida broker as an example. I've had phone calls or emails saying, hey, I've got clients at a lodge staying there for a week. Can you take Bear Paw in and take them out for a day? And I'm like, great. What's the name of the lodge? We'll go pick them up. And it ends up being somewhere outside of Homer, which, for us is an 800-mile trip across the Gulf of Alaska to get there.
Gosh.
So there's a lack of geographical knowledge as to where we really operate. So we operate out of Sitka, which really covers Juneau or Petersburg for our one-way trips, let's say, doing one way or the other. So it's Southeast Alaska. I really want to push that hard, that's where we go. No, we will not cross the Gulf of Alaska. It's just too far to go. And where we are, it has it all. So there's no real reason to go any further.
Yeah. This is great information. Super helpful. Well, I appreciate your time so much.
I appreciate your time as well. And we do need the help. We do need the help marketing. It is a unique package. It's definitely not the Caribbean. It's a different world.
But that's part of the beauty. I mean, that's what makes it beautiful, that it's not the Caribbean, that it is different, that it's all of it. I think the whole thing is what makes it so wonderful. So absolutely a place for it. All right. Well, thank you so much. And then we'll be in touch. Okay?
All right. Thanks. All right. Take care. Bye. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Songs in the Sails podcast. We thrive because of listeners and viewers like you. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave us a review. If you have comments and questions, please send us an email, yachtcharters@songsinthesails.com. Now, come sail away.